Hello again, this is Dr. Marquis with Muscles Unlimited interactive video, and today I'm going to be discussing another topic. It's kind of a wide range of topics, no pun intended, because we're going to talk about range of motion and its importance and a lot of the confusion that is surrounded about that subject. We've all seen people at the gym while they're working out doing a lot of incomplete, short, partial, choppy movements, and it's atrocious. They look like they're doing a clean and jerk when they're supposed to be doing a barbell curl. Well, a couple things to get into a few fundamentals about range of motion. I'm going somewhere with this, speaking in terms of compound exercises versus isolation movements. A compound movement is, most of you know, is a double or involves two joints or more, such as any kind of a squat, for example, using the hip joint, the knee joint, any kind of a pressing motion, usually a shoulder and an elbow joint, versus an isolation movement, which is a single joint movement. The problem with a lot of trainees is that they utilize isolation movements. They treat it as they're doing a compound movement. They don't respect it for what it is. So you see them doing, for example, a chest fly or a leg extension, and they've got a ton of weight on the machine. They're using momentum, they're throwing it up and down, they're moving it about a quarter of the way through the range of motion. And I mean, it completely and totally contradicts the whole purpose and the objective of the movement in the first place. They're treating it like a bench press, not like a fly, or they're treating it like a squat, not a leg extension. I'm sorry, folks, but there's no substitute. I mean, you have to get under the bar and grind and do your heavy compound movements to get anywhere. The other movements, they're icing on the cake, they're auxiliary movements. But the point being, back to the subject of range of motion, very, very important. You have to focus on the full range, slow and deliberate, all the way up, all the way down. And I want to bring up another topic where there's a lot of confusion and kind of hopefully gain a little bit of understanding as to why range of motion is so valuable on many levels. Stretching. A lot of people argue that they enjoy stretching, they like to stretch before they work out, they feel that it warms them up. I'm not a big fan of stretching. I'll tell you why, but I don't argue with people that decide they want to stretch. They have their own reasons, and if they were to injure themselves because they didn't stretch and do their own little ritual, I would feel guilty about it. Not because it happened because they didn't stretch, but I don't want to be responsible for that. But think about stretching for a moment. What is it basically doing? It's basically forcing a muscle, a joint, through an extreme range, the same way as we would execute a proper full range motion of an exercise, of a resistance exercise. So therefore, by doing so, you're engaging a greater percentage of muscle fibers. You're initiating a greater contraction of the muscles. And so what you're doing is you're engaging a myotatic reflex. So in essence, it pretty much, it's like a firing mechanism whereby you're just going to engage. More things are going on at the same time, again, stimulating more muscle fibers to promote better results in muscle growth. Okay, and I use the analogy of like a bow and arrow. Let's say, for example, you're an archer and you have your bow, you pull the string way back. Well, if you pull the bow back this far and release, the arrow might travel 100 feet across the room. But what does the archer do? He pulls back as far as he can, lets go, and now the arrow is going to travel, who knows, maybe a quarter mile. And it's the same thing with working out. You get, the greater the range, the more bang you get for your buck. And so that's how I think the value of stretching is kind of not really understood in terms of how it engages muscle fibers to fire. But in my opinion, every benefit and value that you would derive from stretching is going to occur with full range exercise anyway. Which also leads me to another subject of, speaking of range, let's break it down a little bit more specifically in terms of what range is more important. Where does the value lie in terms of, is there more value in the extended position, the contracted position? Many of us are familiar with the Arthur Jones Nautilus model that came about many years ago. He invented these unique very cumbersome contraptions, which I have a few in my gym, and I think they're great. They're very nostalgic. But his focus was on the fact that the whole premise behind his invention was that the muscles being potentially stronger in the contracted position, thereby if that were to be avoided, you would somehow not derive optimum results. So therefore he had a mechanism built in with a spiral cam whereby it made provision for that. So in the contracted position, the resistance was actually increased, thereby theoretically engaging a greater percentage of muscle fibers. Well, I kind of tend to agree to disagree on that, because in my opinion, if a person is engaging in true high intensity, and if they're a student of the sport, they're experienced enough to understand how the body responds to exercise, they can take pretty much any tool in terms of a barbell, a machine, a cable, free weight, and derive the best circumstance of resistance from it in terms of how they position themselves, and that just comes with skill and overall experience. So but however, if a person does want to argue in favor of the benefit of variable resistance, again, agreeing to disagree, it does not necessarily lie on the value of a machine in order to incorporate that. We've all heard of partial resistance, partials, pulsing, half reps, and you see a lot of people, talking about newbies again, throwing the weight up and doing a lot of half reps incomplete. Well, and I think I've mentioned this before, there's really no right or wrong way to train, and every principle, concept, and application does have some value, but it's a matter of knowing the art and the magic of this is how and when to apply the right dose or the right exposure of resistance to the muscle at the right time to yield the best results. So even partials have great value if you know how and when to use them. For example, I utilize partial repetitions, but only after I've accomplished a full range set, positive, negative, full range set to a failure. And at that point, I might incorporate other intensity enhancing techniques, but partials being one of them, because again, I do have a little bit of gas left in the tank. For example, if I'm doing a preacher curl, I might not be able to do any more repetitions with that resistance that I've just failed with. However, I can heave that bar up to my chin and do maybe 4 or 5 more partials until utter failure. So again, if there is any benefit to the premise of variable resistance, it will have certainly been satisfied to the 9th degree by virtue of the fact that you're doing a set to a failure followed by heavy partials at the end. So I think I've pretty much covered it. If you like anything you've seen on this video today, if anything caught your attention, if you have any questions, any topics you'd like me to discuss in the future, please message me at the group Strength and Health Gym Muscles Unlimited group. This is Dr. Mark P. signing off, and remember that 90% of success is showing up.